What's going on, guys? Plastic Beach X3 back here with another One Piece deck profile, and this time it's going to be my top 16 Madison, Wisconsin regional deck profile that I took to the Madison, Wisconsin regional over this weekend. I just didn't have time between work and wrestling practice. I'm a wrestling coach as well as I have a full-time job and I play this card game. So I don't have a ton of time, but wanted to get this profile out there. I did end up going 7-2. My tiebreakers were really good, so I did luckily end up breaking into the top 16. Finally, not bubbling out, going X3 after a long string of bubbles. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I already had my invite, so it's cool. Um, but I just really wanted to break into the top 16, and now hopefully I can fight for a top 8 at the next regional I go to. Yeah, it was a really fun day. Madison, Wisconsin's a super cool city. I've never been, and I'm so happy that I went because it's a super sick city. Like, I haven't been to a city that I like stood out to me as like, wow, this is pretty cool. But yeah, super sick city, very cool venue, very nice people all day long. No one really rude or anything. Everyone was pretty cool. Even like the two or three interactions I've had with my opponents were like, there's some points in the game where you just gotta be like upfront, like, hey, you're slow playing, or hey, you can't take that back, that kind of thing. Like, it was cordial regardless. Like, everyone gets what we're doing here. We're all playing for money, so yeah, it was really cool. Thanks to everyone that I met there and I talked to. But yeah, let me get into the matchups real quick. Obviously, I played Doflamingo, probably the best deck as of right now. I know a lot of the California regionals they topped with the Lucci, so a lot of Lucci's topped over there. So it's interesting that a lot of Doffy's topped over in Madison and a lot of Lucci's topped over in California. Yeah, it's interesting. But I think Doffy's probably the best deck right now. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. Um, so the matchups for the day. Round one, I played against Black Luffy. The guy said he's never been to a regional before, so a little underexperienced, but hey, uh, you got to start somewhere. But the Black Luffy deck is just not a good matchup for this strategy, so kind of swiftly beat that and got out of there with the W. First round felt pretty good, and then round two played against Black Yellow Luffy. It was a close game at some points, but I was just able to rush him down, and then putting. Once you putting, it's probably game unless they just draw into some broke like geckos and stuff. And I think he did end up drawing into two geckos off of the pudding, but we got there regardless. I don't even think I needed perfume femur, but yeah, you just like kind of whittle down their hand, and Black Luffy dies by their hand, lives and dies by their hand size. So that was that match. Going into round three, played against Amir. Can't say I specific. Oh no, I remember this guy. His name was oh, I can't remember his name, but I think it was Jimmy or something. And shout out to Jimmy. He's a really cool guy. He made a big misplay. He said he was from New York or something. Very cool guy, very nice guy, very good player. He said he made a misplay, and he definitely did make a misplay. He forgot to put two under with Teach, and then he already made an action after he forgot to put it on two the rest of Dawn with Teach. And if it's not a regional, I'm not calling that out at the locals or anything or whatever, but it is what it is. And I think it just snowballed into the loss there. I was that game. I think I was looping laws. I think I was potentially winning anyway, but um, yeah, it is what it is. And then round four. This is right before the 1 hour lunch break. I took an L, which sucks to lose right before the lunch break because then you like dwell on it all lunch break. But luckily I was able to lock back in after this. But I lost to a Bonnie player. Guy ended up top 8ing, 7th place. Really cool guy, really nice guy. I puddinged him with 9 cards in hand. And like obviously that's cracked against Bonnie. They had 9 cards in hand. Pudding, feel like you're winning from there. Unfortunately, he did end up he drew into 2 kids when he had 0 before the pudding. And he was able to play both. I outed the first one, outed the second one, and then Bonnie searched the third one. I couldn't out the third one. And I ended up losing that game because of the third kid. If there was only two, it is what it is. I made a ticket there. Maybe if I established a Jozu earlier, anticipating more than one kid. I really thought that I could win just through two kid. I never really anticipated the third, so I didn't establish a Jozu earlier or something. So maybe that's my misplay. Maybe it's luck. Who knows? But three kids is three kids, and it's hard to beat that. But congrats to that guy for top eighting. And then round five after the lunch break was against a Plouffe player. Kind of just I think he just bricked up. I puttinged him, and once again that's kind of a death sentence. It's already a really bad matchup for Plouffe, but the guy did well overall and a good player. It was just an unfortunate game where I just had everything and he had nothing. And then round six we played against Doflamingo once again. That one, I think the guy said it was his first regional, so pretty shocking that he was up to X1 round six. But hey, it is what it is, and I don't think he really knew the mirror that well. The mirror is very intricate, and you got to do some very specific things in the mirror that you won't do against other matchups. But yeah, we got there. With chaining Josies, I believe, and the law teach stuff. So, and then round seven, another Doffy. This was very good player, very good player. We went into time, about a minute and a half left. He calls me for slow play, which fair enough. If we're going into a minute and a half, I'm thinking hard. I would never try to slow play someone, but sometimes you inadvertently slow play by just thinking a long time, and Doflamingo mirror is just one of those matchups where you just have to think like 4 or 5 moves ahead to make the correct play in the moment. So there was the last turn he calls me for slow play. It's my turn, but he calls me for slow play, but judge comes over, watches me, and I pick up the pace, and I do end up beating him outright, just getting him down to 0 and then swinging for game, mathing him out of the game, and winning, the natural way of winning the game, just swinging at life within that minute and a half. So, yeah, didn't win in time or anything. I won in time, but I didn't win because of the time rules. I actually won because I was able to hard play a lob. He put up 2 boa with 1 life going into my turn. And I was able to put up a bounce, hard play a law, and then teach another law, bounce his 2 boas that he put up. And then he had 3 cards from there, and I was able to math them out with the swings on board, and with the additional Dawn with the teach. So we won that one. And then round 8 was against Yu-Gi-Oh! National Champion Cody Angeloff. Very skilled player. Obviously, I lost. There was a play where I made where I was like, I had double Sengoku on the board and a tapped Jinbei, and I had 6 Dawn, so I was just going to Jozu back to Jinbei. I think you do that in every spot. But obviously, you lose the pudding really bad in that spot. I had double Law in my hand with a Teach because he bounced it, and picking up the Jinbei. I kind of just lost the pudding on the spot, and he ended up having the pudding. But I think there were just deck techs in there in his deck that were better than mine for the mirror specifically. I was hedging, you'll see in the list, I was hedging more towards Bonnie and Anel and just having faith in my ability to win the mirror skillfully over, tech-wise. So I think that made a big difference. But also he's just a great player, and, nothing you can do about that. Yeah, so he won. He got there. It was a pretty easy win for him, I would say. Once he putting me for 8 and put my Jinbei that I just bounced with the Jozu back, it was kind of GG's from there. But the game continued on, but it was a slow burn until I lost the game. And then we talked afterwards, and we talked about our deck choices. And there's some things that I want to implement from his theory that I found really compelling that I can talk about in a different video or something. But yeah. Lost that one. Cody ended up top 8ing, so congratulations to him. He ended up 8th place. So those are my 2 losses, 7th and 8th place, which is why I got so high in the tournament. And then last round I played against a gentleman named Harry from Canada. Shout out to Harry. He's a cool guy. He was on the Bonnie deck. I puddinged him when he had 7 cards in hand, and I think it put back a kid that he was planning on playing the next turn, which really unfortunate for him. And then it came down to a spot where he had 0 life. He had to put up Corazon, Basil, just to live. And I ripped the 2-drop event out of life that turn that he swung. He swung that turn after, and then put up those blockers. And I ripped the 2-drop event out of life, and it was just game. But yeah, so shout out to Harry as well. So let's get into the deck profile. Obviously, Doflamingo leader. I played 4 Perona, of course, 4 Sengoku. I think those are mandatory in any Doffy list, probably. I see like people arguing to cut down the Sengoku, but I just, Jinbei is way too good to cut that down, in my opinion. Then I played 3 Teach. This is very contentious. I was on 2 Teach the night before, and then my buddies convinced me to play 3. I'm not saying that was a wrong decision or anything, or I would have won any matchup because I was playing something else over the Teach, but I think going forward I might just play 2 Teach. The reason being is that you really only want to see Teach in the mirror, I believe. It's obviously has applications in other matchups, and it like jumpstarts your turns against Lucci, which is, very good. Depending on what your hand is. But I think really you're only really wanting this for the mirror. That's where it's the most vital. And even in the mirror, you don't really need to open it. Plus, you have Sengoku Searcher. Plus, you have Weevil to draw cards. So, really, you only really need to see it once throughout the game. And you just need to see it, stick it. It's never going to leave the board after that. So, you don't necessarily need multiple copies. You just want to see it eventually. So that's kind of the reason behind 2. The third, I kind of just overvalued, I think, seeing it in the mirror, but it's a good card. So it's like, it is what it is. 3's might not be bad. I think 2 is probably the way forward, though. Yeah, so 3 Teach, 4 Buggy. Once again, I'd never played this card to actually do the effect. Some people did cheat with this card. I saw a game going on where they had to call judge multiple times because the guy bottom decked off of the Buggy instead of put it on top. You can't do that. But Buggy's a good card. It means obviously a good 2K. It's recursible off of the Gecko. But I think Cody told me that you cut this card. You should probably cut this card for like other 4-drops, like the 2K Law. 4-drop. The theory behind that is like going first, you don't really need a turn 1 play. Assuming you play enough targets in the deck to like blind hit off of your leader, like if you just max out on your 2Ks with the Law and the Crocodile, and then obviously all the other 4-drops that you play, you like kind of maximize your ability to blind so that you don't need to spend a 2K turn 1 to stack, and that just makes sense to me. So I might move towards cutting the Buggy for the Law or something like that. I just don't think Buggy's that good. Obviously it's a good card if you want to play it first, but you likely just don't need to do that. But I could also see an argument where you play it as like a 2 of, just for like something with Jozu or something, to bounce with Jozu and Law. So probably gonna move off of the Buggy. But, it is what it... For me, I never played it. It was just a 2K in my hand all day long that never got played. Whereas I think the Law could be a good, bump up your numbers for your blind hits. And also just Law's a good card to summon off Teach. And it's also good against a Nell. So I think we might be cutting Buggy in the future. But good card nonetheless. 4 Mihawks for the other 2Ks. And then 3 Crocodile. Probably move up to 12 2Ks. I think 2Ks are pretty important in the mirror. Like I said, I wasn't really teching for the mirror. I was teching more for Bonnie and Nell, so I didn't really think about the mirror besides how to actually play it, regardless of the deck composition. So those are the 2Ks I played. I'd probably move up to 4 Crocodile if I cut the Buggies and cut something else like a Teach or something for the other 2Ks. And then for the general engine that everyone's going to be playing, the Weevils, the boas, the jinbeis, the laws busted, and then 3 of the gecko. I was on 4 the night before, but my buddy, convinced me to go down to 3. I think that's the right choice moving forward. I just, if you're cutting a teach to 2 because you don't need to see it early, the same logic kind of applies to gecko where you can cut it from 4 to 3 because you don't really need to see it that early. But I also don't like 2 of it. I know a lot of people are on only 2 of it. I don't like 2 of it. I think this card you definitely need to see, and you definitely need to like loop it in certain matchups like the mirror, and just the card advantage you get off of it is just so nasty. And I mean, the game is what it is. It's a card advantage game. So and also maximizing your blind hits is also nice. So I like the four gecko. Also, just something to have like worthwhile to play off a Jinbei in certain spots is really nice. I like the 3 gecko. Some people play 2, some people play 4. So I settled on 3. 3 pudding. I was also on 4 of this just to hedge against a Nelbani, but ended up cutting it down to 3 at the last second to make room for the teach and stuff, and another tech I'll show you in a minute. But pudding was crazy all day. It's a crazy card. You might not need more than 3 probably. I was just really scared, but luckily I cut it down at the last second to 3. I think it's a good number. It's a busted card against most of the matchups, and even in the mirror, like against I think round 7, the one I won in time or during time, I was able to make a turn where like I bounced one of his. I think he bounced a law by himself, so I knew he had 1 law in hand, so he was looping 2 laws the whole game. So I had a turn where I bounced the other law to his hand, so he had 2 laws in hand at one point in time, and then I puddinged him, and that really stunted the rest of his plays for the rest of the game. And it really just set him up for his loss later on, which was really nice. So putting even in the mirror is busted if you can like set it up correctly, but mostly like against black yellow, against Bonnie, against Anel. Very, very good card, and the reason why you win those matchups pretty much. And then I ended up going 4 Jozu. I was on 3, as you saw in my last deck profile at the Story Regional. I made the last second decision to cut the Gravity Blades for the 3 Jozu, and then I actually bumped it up to 4 the night before the Regional. I think this was a correct choice. I think Jozu is just busted. You can bounce Cavendish, Carrot, any of the black yellow Luffy stuff, all of you can like Jozu battle with the mirror, that nonsense, and then also just like bouncing boas and stuff and weevils is very, very strong. Just getting 2 bounces like on 7 Dawn, being able to Jozu teach law, it's like super busted. So I decided to go for the full playset, especially since it's not searchable, it's not playable off your leader. You just really want to draw it and then stick a 7k so that you can start swinging into board with stuff. Very pivotal card, and also just lets you kill them faster in the mirror, which is like you need to kill them eventually. So I was really happy with 4 Jozu and probably keeping that going forward. I know a lot of people are on like the 7-drop Doffy nowadays, now that Jackson Huang won first place with a 7-drop Doffy in his list. I get the logic, definitely get the logic, but it is a brick at the end of the day. But I get the logic. I mean, it might be good. It probably is very good. And we might see the list morph to beat that list. Something that pops in my mind is 9-drop Mihawk. If a lot of people are playing the Doffy, you could play, a tag 9-drop Mihawk, or just play more Red Rocks or stuff, or, and move away from the Gravity Blades if people are going to be going for a more top-end heavy mirror. But yeah, so it's interesting to see how the deck is going to progress over here in America, or in our format rather than the Asian territory formats, because they were on 4 Jozu, but we're moving towards more of a top end heavy like 7-drop Doffy, 10-drop Kaido type of list. So it's interesting to see how we will build our decks to counter that version, and I already have some ideas going forward. But yeah, 4 Jozu for this event. And then 2 one-of spell cards, 1 Perfume Femur, very busted card, and then 1 Red Rock. Red Rock was an interesting choice. I never really feel like I didn't ever use it all day long. Never used it except for against the the first Bonnie, I was able to remove the first kid with Red Rock, which is like kind of the whole reason I put it in the deck, because I was having trouble with the kid. Like multiple kids coming down. I can always beat one, but the multiple kids coming down is brutal. So I decided to play one Red Rock. And it's also just a generically good card. You can remove geckos and stuff. And Jack. Jack is the big one against black. So yeah, I might move up to more Red Rocks if people keep playing like the top hint heavy of the Doffy version. But also could cut it for something else. It's very cuttable for like Gravity Blade or something. To like remove carrots and Cavendishes and stuff, and like Black Yellow Luffy's stuff. It just doesn't get rid of Jack, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so I like the Red Rock. I actually used it. I played in a local box tournament last night, and I won because I was able to bottom deck a 10-drop ace against an Enel player. So it actually came up more in my local testing than it did in the regional. So interesting. We could see it switch. Once again, one of those cards where you could just see it being something else eventually. But yeah, that's the list. That's the tournament report. GG's to all the guys I played, and thanks for watching my videos. I really appreciate all the nice comments on my videos. Yeah, so GG's to all those guys. Make sure to subscribe to Plastic Beach X3 for more One Piece videos, and peace out.